people. And we have a picture of Wolfie right here. And that's why he's dressed up this way. I'm covering up the older version of Wolfie over here, but way over there, that one, if he's like dressed up in his little coat and stuff, that's Wolfie at like 6 years old. And one of their favorite games with Wolfie is they would sit him down at the keyboard, and they would take a towel and they would put it over his hands, and he would play without looking at his hands, and he would play entire things. And so this is Mozart, born in 1756, unfortunately died very early in 1791. He was a prodigy, a child prodigy, meaning that at 5 years old, he was competing with adults in terms of how competent he was. Pianist, composer, and he composed many symphonies and operas. Really amazing in terms, he mastered all the classical genres, and he scared people. He was so good, he was scary. So his dad, of course, as I mentioned, was a composer and author. That looks like a serious dude. About the same age as Haydn, about the same age as George Washington, right? Actually, I think Leopold Mozart would have been a few years older than George Washington. And definitely sacrificed his own career to further his son's, but pushed his son maybe a little bit too hard. And look at little Wolfie sitting down there at the keyboard. At age 4, he learned how to play the harpsichord and the violin. Now, when I say played harpsichord and violin, I mean he could sit in with adults. They would plop him down in the orchestra with everybody else. Michael, what did you want to share?
An impressive feat only done by another composer, Beethoven.
A little bit, yeah. Beethoven was similar, but we'll talk about him during the Romantic.
He played symphonies while being deaf.
We'll get there, Michael. Don't worry. Age 6, he wrote his first compositions. Right? They weren't very good. His dad probably helped him out. A little bit of help from dad. Probably like those mission projects you guys did in 4th grade. And then he started going on tour, meaning he would tour all the famous palaces at 10 years old. Age 10, he wrote his first symphony. Age 10. Age 14, a little bit older than you guys, wrote his first opera, Bastien de Bastien. It's not that good of an opera, but it's impressive for a 14-year-old. And then at age 17, he couldn't get any other job but to take a job with that very disagreeable Archbishop Hieronymus Colloredo, who was the local guy. He couldn't get work from any of the princes or princesses because he was actually kind of a jokester, and he would get in trouble quite a lot. These classical era kids, All right, so we're going to check out some things from, of course, Mozart's family. Mother died very young. Sister Nan Earl was just as gifted as he was, and so it's a little bit of a mystery. It's a mystery of history why we don't know more about her. And here's a nice family picture of them. We have Nan Earl on the left and Wolfie there in the middle with his red jacket, and then Mom's picture on the wall, and
there's my son.
Yeah, and then Dad over there with his viola.
Grumpy as usual.
Mm-hmm.
Looking kind of grumpy.
Yeah. So let's get to the music part. This is Mozart's Symphony Number 40. So we're not going to start off early. We're going to start off with kind of late with his symphonies, and this is probably one of his most famous ones. So here we go. And here we go. Surprise. And I mean, guys, I really like Haydn. But Haydn doesn't... It's just not this good. You know what I mean? This came out of Mozart's head. And they're super fun to play. Haydn. Cool. But we're going to check out something. Okay, we're going to check out a piano concerto here really quick. So this is one of Mozart was a killer piano player. And so concerto is basically a symphony, but with a featured player. Allegro means fast. Now, what's interesting is I think Haydn and Mozart are really interesting comparisons. So here's one comparison. Haydn invented everything. Mozart did it better than him. And actually, Mozart took a few lessons from Haydn. They had a really great relationship. Probably a better father-son relationship than Mozart and his dad. And even Mozart would call Haydn Papa Haydn because he respected him that much. Let's see if we can find some of the piano parts here. I'm going to scrub up to the piano. And we all know that piano players are weird, so just go along with this. Everyone should be offended. No, there's a certain level of piano player. I think it's a certain level of everybody that once you get there, you're going to be a little weird. Like the people who are really, really into art, the people who are really, really into architecture. It's okay. This is a gentleman who does a lot of piano playing. A lot. Cool. Next thing we're going to check out is something called The Marriage of Figaro. So this is actually our second opera that we're going to be checking out. Our first one that we checked out was from Monteverdi. But in order to understand what this opera is all about, I need to explain it. So I'm going to get my explainer up here. There's a bunch of characters that we need to know who they are. Okay, so I have to find which tab. Okay, it's over here. Okay. So first thing you should know about the Marriage of Figaro, it all happens in this house. Okay, so we're going to make a shape of a house. Let's do a nice big box here. Okay. So we have a house. Yay! Do you guys like my house? Let's make it light brown.
Beautiful.
There's my house. Maybe I should add a triangle on top. Ding, 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 just so we have a roof on our house. There we go. Nice triangle. Okay. I'm going to click. I'm going to drag. Nice. A nice big brown triangle.
Mr. Dean.
Yeah.
You should have disabled the chat.
I still
because
can.
we're all talking on the chat now.
I know. I'll just save it and call all your parents later.
There's like a right now. If I was still on and I didn't accidentally click off, there would be like at least 153 or 60, matter of fact.
Too many chats. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so Marriage of Figaro. Anyone want to guess? Go ahead and use the chat box. Everyone guess what's the main character of the Marriage of Figaro. Let's see if you guys can guess. Figs. Marriage of Figaro. It's going to be Figaro. Okay. So we have Figaro. Okay. And he's going to get married. Right? This is the basic idea of the plot. So we have Figaro, and he's in the house. Okay. And then we have who he's getting married to, which is Susanna. Okay. So we have Figaro and Susanna. And there's no particular reason I put Susanna as smaller font. There we go. Figaro and Susanna, and they are in love. Okay, I know it's not the romantic era yet, but they are in love. Why won't this let me move it? Why? Tell me why. There we go. Okay, now Figaro and Susanna are... I wonder how we could disable the chat. Can I disable chat? Pause the chat.
Please disable the chat.
Maybe just close the chat. Maybe you can just ignore it. All right. So now we're going to have some more characters. Figaro is a servant to someone named the Count. Okay. And there's someone else whose name is the Countess. And they are married. Okay. Now they're actually in charge of the whole house. Does that make sense? That's why I put them on top over here. So we have the Count and the Countess. They're in charge of the house, Figaro and Susanna. Like, Figaro is the servant to the Count, and Susanna is the servant to the Countess.
That's not the prettiest color of the house.
You don't like my brown house?
Mix. Yeah, the brown.
Yeah, there's like
All right, let's just go. There we go. Is that better? Better. Yay. Okay.
Too dark.
We're moving on. Okay. So we have Figaro and Susanna. Okay. They're obviously getting married. Now, here's the problem. The Count's kind of a jerk. And the Count is, how do I put this? Let's just say he flirts too much with all of the ladies of the house because he's kind of like in charge of this. He's not like a king, but he's like a member of the aristocracy. Now, this is based off of maybe not like Enlightenment principles, but like the same types of ideas that the United States is based off of. And the idea is that normal people are smart and that rich people aren't very smart. The people who are kings and queens aren't very smart. And there's all sorts of plays from this era where that's kind of the theme. Okay. So, and that's definitely true here. So the Count is not very smart, and he's flirting with everybody. So the Count is constantly flirting with Susanna. Is that a good idea? No, it's a very bad idea. Okay. Now, we have other characters. Okay. And the reason I'm doing this like kind of visually is to help. Okay, so there is a young lad. I think it's Carabino. So Carabino is the gentleman who's in charge of the horses. Okay, so I'm going to draw some horses over here. Draw my horse stable. And we're going to make the horse stable yellow. Okay, and so Carabino is in charge of the horses over here. Now, Carabino is probably, I don't know, maybe like 13 years old. Okay, 13 years old. He's a young lad, and he has fallen in love with all of the ladies. Poor Carabino, because he's just a young lad, and no one loves him back. Okay, and then there's also some other characters. So we have Barbarina. Okay, Barbarina, I think is, Barbarina is used to be engaged to Figaro. Okay, so they used to be engaged, but they're no longer engaged. And she's been plotting with this other guy. His name is Bartolo. And Bartolo had a girlfriend at one point that that Figaro stole from him. You starting to get this? So Bartolo and Barbarina are in cahoots. Okay, and then Susanna also has a cousin. Okay, the cousin lives over in some place. This is like a big estate, and so there's some other building. Obviously, there's horses on one spot, and there's a building over here, and this is where Marcelina stays. I don't think we meet Marcelina at the beginning, but we get to hear about her. Her name is Marcelina. Okay, and then Marcelina is Susanna's cousin, And she just, I don't know, she tends the gardens or something like that. Okay. Now, let's talk about what's going on. Okay, at the very beginning of our opera, Figaro and Susanna are preparing for their wedding. They're preparing for their wedding. Okay. And Susanna is sewing her dress or probably like working on her veil. Okay. And Figaro is like building furniture, like doing some guy stuff. He's like swinging the hammer, building some furniture. He's sawing, and they're singing together about what a wonderful life they're going to have. And then they end up kind of like maybe not having an argument, but they're kind of wondering why the Count has made their quarters, their rooms, so close to the Count and the Countess. Okay. And Figaro's going like, no, this is great because when the Count needs me, I'm going to be super close by. You guys get this? And Susanna's going like, actually, the Count keeps on flirting with me, so like I don't want to have his room so close. And Figaro goes, no, because when, the Countess needs you, you're like, you can just go over and you can come right back. And, you don't have to commute very far. And they sit there and they sing about this and they argue and so forth. And then all of a sudden, Figaro has to go. He gets called away. Doop-a-doo. So Figaro goes away. So I'm going to take Figaro and he goes off over here. And we don't even know where the Countess is. She's not even in the house as of right now. So Susanna's, she's sitting there by herself. And then all of a sudden, I think it's Barbarina who shows up. Barbarina shows up in the area. Now, Barbarina used to be engaged to Figaro. Okay, do you think Barbarina and Susanna are going to get along? Alora says no. And so they sing about how they don't like each other. But we kind of understand why. Okay. And then there's probably a scene where we get to meet Dr. Bartolo. We get to hear them kind of chat it up. And then all of a sudden, Barbarina goes away. And then the Count shows up. Okay, Susanna's by herself in her room. And then the Count shows up. I know we have 1 minute left, by the way. I'm keeping an eye on the clock. The Count shows up. Okay. And Susanna is going like, oh, it's so good to see you. It's so good. She's being polite because it's like her boss's husband. But really, she's not that excited to see the Count. And then, I forgot a character. I forgot about the music teacher. So there's the music teacher. And then the music teacher shows up. Oh no, I totally screwed this up. I screwed up the order. The Count's not there yet. Well, anyway, guys, we're going to get the order correct the next time because it is 10 o'clock on the dot. Raise your hand if this is super confusing. It's super confusing, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And so I'll finish up explaining what's happening within this, and then we'll actually get to watch the whole thing, and you're going to get to watch Mozart's masterwork. This is all about Mozart, after all. All right, guys, 10 o'clock. I will see you next week. Please get your Flipgrids in tomorrow. Work hard, practice, practice. Bye, guys.
Missing one.
Bye, Mr. Dean.